What's up, y'all? It's Edsel. Today I'm taking you behind the scenes of a Nike-inspired photo shoot that I just did. We've got gelled lights, fake tattoos, in studio and on location. Let's go. Alright, y'all, so for this week's episode of Make the Art, I've got a pretty ambitious shoot for you. I had this idea for a fashion-inspired shoot where we took fake tattoos, kind of put them all over the model's face, on her neck, just made her look really kind of edgy and had a lot of attitude. And I actually thought that would be really cool, like fitness-inspired shoot, just because it's like energetic, edgy, bold, and a punchy contrast of fitness work would just be perfect for that concept. Real quick before we get into the shoot, let me talk about inspiration. So it all started with this photo. I have no idea where I came across this photo or where it's from. It looks like almost like a still from a movie or something, but I just freaking loved like that strong symbolism in tattoos on her chest, and I was like, oh man, it would be so cool if we could actually like find a model with that. That was, I didn't entertain that idea too long because it just probably wasn't going to happen. I figured it would be really cool to find a great model and then just find also makeup stylists that could actually put fake tattoos on her like face and neck. I don't know too many models that have face tattoos, but there should be more because that would be sick. I started on Pinterest. I kind of put together a board of some ideas. I started by pulling together some tattoo inspiration. You can see here this GRL, PWR. We actually used kind of similar idea. I love the exclamation points. We used that too. Ruby Rose is a great reference. She's got great tattoos. Loved the finger tattoos. We ended up using Faith too. You can see that we use a lot of these. It was great to have some of these ideas on hand for reference. I loved the under the eye tat. Yeah, so this is obviously where we took a lot of inspiration. And then going into the actual poses and movement, I kind of found images that were in this sort of dynamic technical space. So like this is spot on in terms of just kind of the action that's taking place. You can kind of see here, we did some jumping photos, even like some of the standing posing stuff. It's kind of shot from a low angle, shot up, super wide. That was kind of what I was going for in the shoot. I love the jumping movement here. Super technical, fits perfectly with the Nike Lab. Color-wise, the actual color inspiration in the lighting of the gels, that inspiration actually came from the orange outfit itself. So that kind of is where I took that cue from, and we just went from there. For wardrobe, I pulled the looks myself. They're two looks from Nike Lab because what they're doing is super elevated in the athletic space. It's always super inspiring to me from a design standpoint, and I just know will always look cool in photos. So I got two looks from Nike Lab. I've got a model, Ahmna, who killed it. I got a really incredible team, two amazing assistants, and two amazing makeup artists, which really brought this whole concept to life. How long were you there? You were there a while, right? Maybe.
Yeah, almost 10 years. Wow. Yeah, part of me.
Like Manhattan is getting less expensive, and Brooklyn is getting like exponentially more expensive.
Because that's where the movie stars live.
Yeah, right?
You'll never have enough money saved, so you might as well just go for it. Oh, I helped.
So do you mind helping me go set up?
Yes. My dog puked in the bed at like 12:45 a.m. So didn't sleep well. Thanks for asking.
That's what we're here for.
Glamorous. Ready?
Chill and sleeping.
I know, it's unreal. I'm gonna put you in my kit and take you.
She is, I think like, and even if she's wearing a high collar to the neck, but since we have two outfits that are totally different, we should do it anyway. Yeah, I think like anything on there, like even like that little heart, like once you start doing the little icons, I think that's what makes that style.
Like little heart stars, whatever. It's just that photoshoot.
Well, and that's a huge thing for me too. And one of the reasons I loved, like, I kind of got into fashion in the first place, besides being inspired by photography, is like I love working with teams. Like I love working with other creative people because like you guys bring so much more than because if I was trying to do this, it would just.
Well, we all have our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes all types, right?
Yeah, and I know what my thing is not, so it's
Same.
not this.
Yeah.
So.
Same.
Jose, come check this out over here. So Britt and Stephanie are killing our tattoos right now on Ahmna. We're gonna decide like what's good placement. Oh, I like that you mixed the Roman numeral and the
accidental,
That was cool.
but I kind of like it.
No, it's cool. I dig it.
I need to do the broken heart.
Let's see it. Let's see it up. It's gonna be so cool.
Hold on. Hold on.
Oh wait, I'm gonna wait for it to finish.
Yeah, like, let me fix this, bro.
Bro, chill.
Bro. Well, I just don't want it. I'm embarrassed.
I didn't film it, don't worry.
Okay, good.
I'll edit that out.
It ain't lipstick, you know what I mean? Okay.
You should go just eat after this and just like at a restaurant around here and then just
I feel odd.
just like go to Chipotle.
You'll blend right in, don't
Yeah,
worry.
exactly. It's a good thing you're not an actual tattoo artist.
Right,
Yikes! This doesn't look very good.
Sorry, it sucks.
Let me start over real quick. Yeah. Brittany, do you go by Britt or Brittany? You tell me. I don't want to just make up
They're
my
both my
version.
names.
Well, see, because I go by Philip and people call me Phil, and I'm like, I didn't say Phil, and people just like decide what my name
Oh, I
is.
don't care.
See, I don't mind people
See, I'm not that
calling
chill at all
me
about it.
Steph
Yeah.
if I've like given you guys. we underestimated how hard broken hearts are, right?
No, guys.
Yeah, that's not mine.
No, don't ever think it.
Oh,
Well, I didn't mean to do that, but you're
Well,
welcome.
yeah.
I know.
That's kind of the point, though. I think is that like non-professionals. It looks like it was done by a non-tattoo artist.
Good,
You
because
know?
it was.
You know what I mean? Like the actual real tattoos instead of.
Like the
Get
person
it?
tattoo.
Yeah, it's like just some guy was like telling me. I introduce our team. All right, you're first up, by the way.
Wow.
This is Jose, master assistant. Nata's over here. You may remember her from such shoots as the last one that I did. Yeah. Ahmna, looking pretty cool. Then we got Britt and Stephanie crushing it on the tattoo work and the makeup.
It's like this on the floor.
I'm getting surgery.
This is one of the weirder photo shoot experiences, but I'm super here for it. So, imagine getting a tattoo there on your.
Oh my gosh, that was
I know.
Actually, I just saw someone that.
RESIST,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So here's the question: when she puts on her jacket, is it gonna mess things up, or?
No, we're gonna.
If we set it,
Cool.
you can't really read what that says. But maybe I like
I
that.
it kind of has like a faded quality though.
I'm gonna like clean this up a little, but it's hard when you're like a makeup artist because you're kind of a perfectionist.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's do it
like
there.
a teardrop there.
And then maybe something else there, and then let's just do like some little three exclamation on our arm.
Yeah.
I just want to get like a few more smaller things because
Yeah.
we should probably start shooting soon.
Yeah,
But
for sure. So we'll do. Should I just touch my neck? You should be. You're okay. You're
Fine.
okay. Okay.
we're just thinking through tattoo ideas right now. It's not every day that I think about like stick and poke tattoos. So look super badass. All right, let's do the actual thing that we came here to do and shoot the work. Or just like whatever you were just doing, it was so cool. It doesn't look like much when you're in a garage, but it's alright, cool. So actually, just over here real quick. I'll show you some inspiration. One of the important stuff first, like some of these like more kind of quieter portraits. But then I want to get into like a lot of these like just kind of like jumping movements, like even like kind of weird, like where you're kind of like doing this or like super not posing. Look here. Yeah, I like your chin up too. Down to touch. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. Yeah, then you kind of lean it over. You can kind of like swing your arms too. Yeah, there it is. You get real close. Give me like a. I don't want you to mess up the. Yeah, there it is. Nice. Give me more teeth, like a more. Yeah, there it is. That one's amazing. No. I think like jumping and moving is fine. What you can do is like kind of separate your feet and jump forward and back on your front and back foot. Yeah, so back and forth. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So cool. Woo! Start with your arms. You start with your arms like here, and then you kind of turn everything. Yeah, so the skirt and your arms and your hair. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. We're gonna need to raise this guy. Yeah. That looks really cool once you're Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, so good. I look like they kind of mouth open, like kind of exhale.
She's just floating in there. Whoa. That one's so right.
This is money. Yeah.
That was perfect.
Like, to not, like, holding it up or something, like, instead of, yeah, perfect. Oh, love that. Good. Actually, can you do this? Can you do that where you were like just here? Love that. Can you just, yeah, perfect. Just put that. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh my god.
I might be like pulling it up. Yeah, there's. Can you even girl power right there? Like somehow. Do it like kind of, can you do it close to your, oh yeah, right there. Turn your shoulder a little more quickly. Yeah, right there. Look down. Alright, cool. Real quick, I just I took off the lens hood because I really like this backlight and I wanted to get a little more flare. You can kind of see it in the shot here. So let a little more light in, just like leaky a little bit. It's kind of vibey. Yeah, that's awesome. There. Back where you were a little bit. Oh, I like that arm hanging too.
Did we do that one half up? That'd be so cute.
Pretty awesome.
Like a high up, like kind of 90s.
I actually like to look down. All right, cool. So we are finished in the studio. We're just gonna run to a parking garage nearby and just get a little more content, a few more shots in a different location. I think this outfit's gonna look really cool in that sort of concrete, austere context. So let's go. All right, guys. So it's always like really important to, it's always really important to look where you're shooting when you're out on location, because sometimes there can be some obstacles in the way of a shoot. One time I was shooting like on the side of a road once under an overpass, and I was shooting and I looked down and there was like a hypodermic needle just on the ground, and like my knee was on the ground. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. Make sure you look where you're shooting. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, like that too. Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, so give me like a step, and then actually this is wrong first. So this is what I'm gonna do with my camera, but yeah, but less like athletic, like hop, and more like a turn or yeah, jump and kind of look back over your shoulder.
Like you said, jumping, just like rest on your tiptoe and then like.
Yeah. And then bring both arms back and across. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Yeah, let me. All right, that's a wrap. Killed it. Yeah.
Prepared, and you're like, no, we're good.
That's a wrap. Nice job. All right, y'all. So we finished the second location. We just wanted to get some extra shots, kind of actually on location. So we got some really cool textures with the gels and the concrete walls. And so yeah, this is a really great shoot. Cheers. All right, y'all, so that was behind the scenes. I hope you dug it. I want to jump into the edit, but I also want to tell you guys that I'm actually not finished editing these photos yet. I wanted to get this video out so you guys could see it. One of the things that I'm doing as I kind of dug into the edit is just allowing myself to be creative, allowing myself to be flexible with the kind of outcome. Right now I'm working on this series of kind of more fine art editorial work that looks like this. I'm actually really stoked about where that's going, but I haven't finished it quite yet. Actually, next week I think the Make the Art video is gonna be about how I took the photos from just a regular retouch photo to this sort of crazy multimedia painted style of fine art photo. All right, y'all, so if you've never used gelled lighting, I really want to give you guys a look at the behind the scenes of my lighting setup. For the most part, this is the setup we used. I had a large silver umbrella, camera right as the main. I also had a magnum reflector pointed back at the model as kind of an edge light. It had a yellow gel on it, yellow gel on it. And then I also had an LED above, an LED panel just to bring back some of the skin tones. So one thing you should know about using gels If you want pure color, go for pure color. But sometimes if you use gels, the skin will look super weird because it'll pick up whatever color you're putting on it from the gel. So if you don't bring back like a neutral lighting source, then the skin is just gonna look super saturated. And that's really cool. That's a great look for a different concept. But for this one, I actually wanted her to have kind of natural skin tones with just some spill of color kind of hitting her on the side. But let's go ahead and jump into one edit, and then I'll talk about some key takeaways from the shoot. All right, y'all, let's do this thing. Okay, before I start, I want to just say that I actually am recording this a second time. So I recorded this once already, and I went through the whole editing process, and it was like hella boring. It was like 30 minutes long on top of like an already 20-minute long episode. I don't want this show to be about edits. I want to be able to be a resource for you guys and to show you how I work. There's so many like technical Photoshop videos on YouTube that I just kind of want to give you guys like my process and then allow you guys to go kind of out and really get into the nitty gritty of retouching if that's what you're here for. So let me just show you kind of each layer and step of this process. Okay, so the first thing I do is I run an action that takes my photo in Photoshop. It creates a smart object, which allows me to make a bunch of edits to it while being able to go back and change those edits at any time. That's called non-destructive workflow. And then once that's a smart object, I open up Adobe Camera Raw Filter, which is basically just Lightroom within Photoshop. I adjusted the temperature, adjusted my shadows, highlights, my white and blacks. I made the whites whiter, the blacks blacker. It creates a contrast within the photo without actually having to use the contrast slider. The contrast slider is just kind of a gross, like macro level contrast, and it's not very nuanced, not very subtle, and there are just so much better ways to do contrast than the actual contrast slider. So highly recommend you don't touch that. Adjusted the clarity a little bit. Cool, process that. All right, so now I've got basically the base image, and I applied a little dodge and burn to her face. You can see I just kind of brushed it on the bridge of her nose, on her cheekbone, on her lips where the light is already hitting. I brought out her eyes a little bit. You want to make sure that you don't paint too much on the white of the eyes because it looks unnatural. So you kind of really focus on the iris. This is the dodge and burn off. That's the dodge and burn on. I also did a little smoothing. Really simple, really simple. So frequency separation. This is like the bulk of what I want to talk about. So a lot of people use frequency separation for basically skin blemishes. Basically what frequency separation does is it separates the high layer from the low layer. And so on the high layer, you have lots of you have the texture of the photo. And on the low layer, you have all the values that aren't texture. So basically you have hue, saturation, luminance, basically all the color. So when you're looking at just like a high layer, it looks like this. Literally, you're only seeing texture here. You're seeing the texture of the jacket. If I zoom in, you like literally only see texture of the face. You can see it on her lips, on her, in her eyelashes, etc., etc. So that's the high level. It's just texture only. Now, if I bring back everything else and I turn off the high layer, you see no texture, literally only hue, saturation, and luminance. So like there's no texture to her lips or to her face. You're just kind of seeing shades and gradations of color and light. It looks like a painting or a cartoon or something. Then you turn the texture back on and voila, there it all is. So basically what I'm doing here is correcting her tattoos. So we drew these tattoos on, meaning our makeup artist was just kind of like winging it. You know, we didn't actually have like a real tattoo artist. We didn't have real tattoos. So to make them look realistic in post, I basically had to recreate them in Photoshop. So let me show you what they look like before, after, before, after. Huge difference, right? Of course, there's a huge difference because when you're brushing on tattoos with mascara, things are gonna blur. You're not gonna get straight lines. They're not gonna be all identical, etc., that you would have with a tattoo. So the goal is to make actually realistic looking tattoos. So what you do is in between the high and the low layers, you basically create shapes like using the pen tool. You can kind of take any shape you want. You can paint that in between the layers. you just make a quick selection, feather it, however you want to feather it. And then basically you can paint underneath this texture in that shape and create tattoos. The shape can be literally anything you want. I'll show you down here. Oh, I've got to turn this back on. There. So this is the before of that rectangle. That's the after. I basically just created straight lines on her arm. Did that to the lightning bolt on her face and basically to all the tattoos on her body. So that's frequency separation. Highly recommend you search that on YouTube if you want to know more and want to know specifics of how to do that. Cool, so let's go into the coloring. So let me turn all these on real quick. So honestly, I always start with exposure. It just allows me to add more contrast by adjusting the black level. You can do that in this offset panel. And then selective color and color balance. I'm basically just adjusting kind of the nuance of the red and orange tones that are in here. One of the reasons I love selective color is you have all of your colors here, but within each color are multiple color sliders. So if you go into red, you can adjust the level of cyan versus red. Let me show you. Or you can adjust the level of magenta versus green, etc., within each color. So you can adjust the level of reds and reds, the level of reds and yellows, the level of reds and the cyans, etc. Like, it gets crazy, but it creates super nuanced color. So added a color balance, added more reds kind of in the shadows there. But to me, it's looking a little saturated, so I got a Vibrance layer. I adjusted the Vibrance down a little bit. Vibrance is basically the smart version of saturation. Don't ask me how it works, I don't really know, and no one else I know who's ever taught a tutorial has ever given a straight answer for it either. And then finally, tattoo color. So if you'll notice in real life, tattoos tend to have like a cyan tint to them just because when they get exposed to the sun and the elements, they turn that kind of bluish cyan color. So here they're red, and I wanted to add a little more like realism to them, so I added a little bit of cyan with a curves adjustment layer where I pulled down the red curve to add more cyan and up the blue in the shadows. And then I ran a quick high pass on it to sharpen, which is how I sharpen all my images, and voila. So let's look at the before again. That's the before. That's the after. Before, after. Leave me a comment in the comment section below if you want more in-depth edits. I have like a 30-minute version of this edit. It's just, to me, that seems boring, that seems excessive. I could post it as a separate video, which maybe mitigates a little bit of that for not everyone that wants to see it. But if you'd rather see me just kind of quickly walking through all of my adjustment layers on an image like I just did, let me know if you like that. Let me know if you just want to nerd out on Photoshop, in which case I might suggest a couple links for you. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the behind the scenes, the lighting, the gear. Oh, I didn't talk about gear. Gear was the Sony A7r Mark III. I was shooting with the 24-105 a little bit. I shot with the 16-35 a lot, so a lot of the kind of up angle shots when I was sitting on the floor, those were with the 16-35, and a lot of the tighter portraits were with the Sony 85-1.8. That is like the magic portrait lens, one of the vibiest lenses that I have ever owned and have ever used. I actually have the link down below to all the gear that you can check out. It'll take you to Amazon if you're interested in any of the gear. Hope you guys also enjoyed the edit. I've been having a blast doing this. I feel like it's getting progressively better each week, maybe, I hope. Let me know in the comment section below. One of the things that I love about YouTube is how interactive the audience is and how cool the subscribers are. So you guys, I'm talking to you. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Those of you that already have, I've had a bunch of new subscribers, which is really cool. Would love for you to share this with your friends. Tell them about the channel. I'm coming out with basically like a free tutorial every week. A lot of people charge for these tutorials. I'm just kind of showing you what I'm shooting, and hopefully you guys are learning something. Hopefully each week is something kind of new and different and fun and exciting for you guys. Would love for you to leave a comment if you want to see any more like behind the scenes, if you want to see any more of the editing process, whatever it may be. Let me know in the comment below and I will get back to you. And see you next week. Cheers.